So far, we created a number of evil files that can be used in so many scenarios, and we know that we can combine them to come up with even more files and even more attacks. Now, I'd like to spend this lecture and the next few lectures talking about generating backdoors. Now, these evil files are very useful, but in most cases, the ultimate goal is to be able to control the target system and be able to execute commands on it and see the result. So, I'd like to spend this lecture and the next few lectures talking about backdoors. Now, a backdoor is just a program that allows us to control the target system and do whatever the normal users are able to do on that system. Usually, we'd communicate with this backdoor using the command line, and there is a large number of backdoors that you can already get and use. You don't have to program your own. I actually cover creating different types of backdoors in my social engineering course and in my general ethical hacking course. So if you're interested in that, then go and check out these courses. But since this is a programming course, we're going to focus on creating our own backdoors. Now, the most basic feature that pretty much all backdoors offer is the ability to execute system commands. So if your target is Windows, you'll be able to execute Windows commands remotely. If your target is Linux, you'll be able to execute Linux commands remotely, and so on. Other backdoors, such as the ones that I cover in my other courses, will allow you to also download files, run keyloggers, open the webcam, record the mic, and do a lot of cool stuff. But these are all extra features. The very basic feature is to be able to execute system commands. Now, when we talk about a backdoor, it has to be interactive. So basically, we have the hacker machine and we have the victim machine. The backdoor gets executed on the victim machine. So it's just a program that's going to run on the victim machine. But when it does that, it's going to establish some kind of a connection between the victim and the hacker. And you can see this is represented in the yellow line. So you can think of this as a pipe or a connection that allows data to flow between the hacker and the victim. And then the hacker is going to send system commands. The system commands are going to get executed on the victim machine, and the result is going to be sent back to the hacker. All of this is possible using this yellow line, which you can think of as a pipe passing data between the two computers. So now, if you think of it, even before being able to run system commands, we need to be able to establish some sort of a connection between the hacker and the victim. Once the connection is established, running the system commands is easy because we know we can do that using the subprocess module. So that's going to be very easy to achieve. The main challenge right now is to be able to establish some kind of a connection between the hacker and the victim so that we can pass data. We can send the commands and receive the results. All of this is just normal data. So once we have the connection, everything else is easy. Now, this actually gives me a great opportunity to introduce you to sockets in Python, which can be used to establish connections and pass data. You don't have to use them to create backdoors, but we're going to use it to create backdoors because this is a hacking course. Now, there are a number of ways to establish a connection between two computers. The two most common ways is to use a direct connection or a bind connection, and you'll actually see this even with backdoors generated using other programs like Metasploit and Empire. So I even talk about this in my other courses. Now, a bind or a direct connection means the initial connection is going to go from the hacker to the victim machine. So the victim computer needs to be listening or waiting for incoming connections on a specific port, and then the hacker is going to connect on that port. Now, this is not great because for the victim machine to be able to receive the connection, the backdoor will have to open a specific port in this machine. And when you open a port on a machine that has a firewall, most of the time the firewall will give a warning saying here there is an unknown port that has been opened on your computer by an unknown program. Be careful. So most people or most systems will detect this. So it's not a very good way of exploiting a system. A better way of doing this is to use a reverse connection. In this case, when the backdoor is executed on the victim computer, it will connect back to the hacker. So what happens is the hacker will open a port on their computer and they're going to listen for incoming connections. Now the hacker firewall might say, here, be careful, there is an open port on your computer. But me as a hacker, I'm not going to worry about this because I'm going to open this port myself. So I know that this port is going to be used for something that is useful to me. So I can even disable my firewall before I do this. Then we're going to execute the backdoor on the victim computer, and the backdoor is going to connect back from the victim computer to the hacker. This connection is very similar to any other connection that the victim does every day. Similar to when a person opens a website. They connect to the website when they open a website. Therefore, most firewalls will not trigger this as something that is suspicious, especially if the port that's used, that's opened on the hacker computer, is a port that's commonly known, such as port 80 or port 8080, which is a port that's usually used by web servers. Therefore, as far as the firewall is concerned on here, this computer is making a connection to a port that's usually used by web servers, and therefore this is not suspicious at all. There are no open ports on this computer, and there are no suspicious processes opening ports on the machine. So, in all of my other courses, and even in this course, I always use a reverse connection in my backdoors and in my payloads. And this is what we're going to do when we start building our backdoor in the next lecture. For now, I just wanted to make sure that you understand what a backdoor is, the most common ways of receiving a connection or establishing a connection between two computers. So everything we're talking about right now doesn't have to be used in a backdoor. I'm just talking about how you could establish a connection between two computers, but later on, we're actually gonna use this connection in order to hack into the target computer. But the methods that we're gonna use, you can use them in any scenario where you need to transfer data between two computers.